Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast, the podcast for real estate agents absolutely everywhere. I'm Lisa B, and during this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything real estate. What's working, what's not working, AI, automation, technology, eXp Realty, and absolutely everything to do with real estate. I'll have guest speakers as well, where we'll answer your questions from the Facebook group, Let's Talk About Real Estate. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, make sure you do that now, and we'd be happy to help answering any question. And again, welcome to the show. Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Let's Talk About Real Estate. And we have a very special guest today, don't we, Bjorn?
We certainly do. We have our CEO of eXp Realty, Leo Pareja. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. Welcome to our show.
You did really good. You did really good.
Thanks for being here.
Pareja, which is a happy name. It's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Leo. So we have quite a few questions for you this morning as the CEO of eXp. So we're very curious as to what your vision is for the future of eXp over the next, say, 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, so the great question. One that I feel like I get asked quite a bit, and whether it's Wall Street, whether it's agents considering coming over. Today, I don't know if most of you guys know or assume, but I spend 60% of my time talking to agents, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many. So this is recorded one-to-one, but it'll be one-to-many. So this is a pretty good example of like what I spend my days. And I just spoke to a Wall Street analyst who was asking us about the macro, and international was a big part of our conversation. So, the North American markets are our biggest segment, US and Canada. But we just announced our Q4 earnings and Q1 earnings, and we had a 103% growth in international year over year. So like really big. It's still a small percentage of the total revenue bucket, but it's like doubling is a big number, right? Quarter over quarter from the by the year. So Q1 of 24 to 25. And as you guys know, Glenn just spent the last year obsessed with international. And the fun part about expanding to new countries is that we get to take all the stuff we learned in North America and not make the same mistakes and then localize it. And what I'm most excited about right now is the proliferation of all the different AI tools, right? And I truly believe right now we're about to become superhuman in many ways, right? We can do a lot more with a lot less. And if I look at the significant shifts we've seen in technology, I've been in the business for 23 years. And the two big ones I lived through were high-speed internet and then mobile. And, for young people watching this are like, what is he talking about, right? Like I'm old enough where in order to look up listings, I had to drive to the office because the internet at my house didn't exist. Like I had a home computer, but it wasn't like talking to the internet in real time. So I remember when my office first got a T1 line, it was a big deal. We were no longer dealing with dial-up internet. And then, we got mobile devices that became the remote controls to our life. And again, I'm old enough where I was selling real estate with maps, and I was like pulling out these things and, holding them like this in my lap. And I was probably a menace to society. And then this thing came out, right? And this is really a remote control to your life, right? And so what did that do? It made the transaction much faster and easier. So for example, in 2002, the fastest I could sell a listing was probably 2 or 3 weeks, right? Because once I put it on the MLS or a portal in your guys' world, it would take like the other agent would call me and leave me a voicemail in my landline. Then I'd have to call the seller back and then schedule the appointment. All of these things that like best case scenario, if it was a hot property and it was priced aggressively, it would still take me weeks, right? Versus now there's a digital kind of flow of information. It goes live into the MLS. It gets syndicated to all these portals and websites. Consumers from around the globe can see it. They can do a virtual tour with a phone, right? And I'm sure you've had folks from all over the parts of the world buy in Australia remotely. You send them the contract digitally. You present it digitally, and you execute it digitally. And something that once took weeks or months now can be done in days or weeks. And so, excuse me, one of the things that I saw with both of those giant leaps in technology was it augmented my strengths. So what do I mean by that? Like one of my strengths as a person is a communicator, right? Like the high-speed internet allows me to do this, what we're doing right now, with 82,000 people, right? I just did a panel at a national conference, and there was brands from all over. So the CEO of Remax was right after me. The CEO of Keller Williams was right after him. Like every global brand was present. And they asked me a question of like, where do you see franchises? And I said, franchises are dead. It's old technology. And this is what I meant. Like once upon a time, to take Remax to Australia or Keller Williams to Australia, someone bought the rights, flew to Austin or flew to Denver, kind of got the gospel, and then took it back to Sydney and sold it. Like you guys are in a one-to-one digital relationship with me, right? Like you guys we have a very flat organization. You ping me, you put it on my schedule, and we're doing a podcast live. You're asking me whatever you want. It's not scripted. You both interact with me on social, right? Like I put out a lot of content on both Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So in a way, we're omnipresent and we're connected, right? Social and high-speed internet and mobile strengthened my strengths. AI is the first time I've experienced that something filled in my weaknesses, right? Which is a really big paradigm shift, right? Like if you've ever been in a room, and Bjorn, you've been in masterminds with me in Lisbon, and I'm hopefully see you in Barcelona in a couple of weeks, right?
Not heading over there this time, but it was Vegas where I met you originally.
No, it was Vegas. It was in the Vegas. I remember your input because of the differences in models. But my point is, I actually did not do a lot of written communication because I'm pretty sure I'm just not diagnosed, but like dyslexic or ADHD or whatever the stuff that, we all have that didn't have a label in the 80s. And so I just didn't do it. And I didn't do it because it took me a long time. It was painful. I was self-aware of it. I made a spelling mistake no matter how many times I read it, the words would move on me, and I just didn't do it. And one of the mantras that I've always lived by is, hey, ignore your weaknesses and lean into your strengths. But these tools can actually allow me to do things I couldn't do before, right? Perfect example. Glenn is he's drafting a book, and it's like kind of his life story, and he's like, hey, here's a draft, and it was 80,000 words. Like there is no physical way I could read that and consume that in the workload I have and with the way my brain's wired and still like do it in a reasonable time. I dropped it into 11 Labs. I had it turned into audio in Glenn's voice. I put it on my iPhone. I listened to 2x, and it went from 6 hours to 3 hours, and I consumed it over a weekend. Like between my workout and like cooking for the family, which I love doing on the weekends. So it didn't interfere with my time management, and I was able to consume it in a format that I like to consume information on, right? Like most people can't listen to 2x and retain information. My brain's wired differently, so I can. And so like now I can write pretty complicated things. I can do it in my voice, and like we have a GPT internally that's trained on all the content I've ever created, right? So the marketing team can actually, a lot of times when you saw my name, an email come out company-wide that had my name on it, I actually approved it because I'm very careful about my voice. Well, now the GPT can actually take something they wrote and say, put into Leo's voice. And typically it'll shorten it and probably make it more aggressive and more direct. But it knows how I talk because it has thousands of hours of me talking, right? So all of us are about to get that level of lift, right? And so this is not if you want to, it's kind of like, as silly as it sounds, like I actually argued with an agent in 2003 about email. She told me, she's like, I'm going to keep my landline and the fax machine. This thing's a fad. I'm like, Betty, I don't think so. And by the way, she was in her 70s. And so in fairness, she didn't care. She's like, look, I'm going to ride this till the wheels fall off. And she did. But this is one of those, this is email. This is internet. This is high-speed internet. And the folks who use it will outperform the folks that don't.
And can I ask, okay, so you're talking about it from a micro level, really, of you with your weaknesses that you can plug them in with AI, but also it goes more than that, the weaknesses of, say, eXp, or the things that we can improve on. So then you can look at a macro level of what AI can we put in to plug in all those gaps too, which is even more exciting from a business perspective, isn't it? So we can all do that individually, but as a business, I'm sure there's things that you're working on with that as well to plug in those gaps.
And so exactly what I'm telling you as an agent, we're going to do at scale. And when I say we, it's like organized society, right?
Mm,
There's a couple of thoughts I want you guys to think about as you consume what I'm saying. One, there is no gatekeepers with this technology.
mm,
So, so for example, like let's say a new software comes out, a new software language like Ruby on Rails or React and Node and JavaScript. Like 99% of the population, it's like, okay, right? And websites move to most websites are now on React and a version of Java because it's like 80% bilingual between iOS and web browser, right? So a lot of like Facebook, Instagram, they're all built on this. Zillow, I bet your national portal is built on it because it's really map friendly. But like when it came out, it was a big deal for engineers, but like for us, it's like, okay, whatever, right? We now have access to create anything we want on the planet from light app build to a light website build, right? There's apps like Lovable and Windsurf and Cursor. You are all getting an upgrade to your GPTs very soon with a product called Codex. And OpenAI just bought Windsurf, right? And what all these companies do is they allow natural language programming. So you can literally say, "Hey, it's Lisa. I want a personal website. I want this to be the URL. Look at Bjorn's website, look at Lisa's website, look at Jenny's website, and create a draft. And I want it to have these three tabs." And then it gives you a sketch. And then you can go back and be like, okay, move the button to the left, add a login page, make sure you can authenticate with Google and Meta. And like, this is the crazy part. And this is the part I've never experienced in business before. And again, put yourself in our frontline people's shoes because it applies to you as business owners, it applies to employees. Your broker or your people on the ground in Australia know more about Australian real estate than my engineers sitting in the US or India. So, in a natural language prompt, I think our frontline contributors could build more useful tech. And I'm talking about right now and definitely in 6 and 12 and 18 months from now than my programmers can. But I still think I need the programmers to go make sure that the backend database speaks to the front end and does the tech stuff. But like I've built, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a founder of a tech company previously to being at eXp. There was always this workflow problem where I would sit down with a product manager who would then create requirements to then give it to a designer who would design the front end in kind of like a Figma and Sigma workflow. It's called a wireframe. And then they would show me, are we hot or cold, colors, palettes, and then they'd give it to like a front end person, and the front end person would make sure it's functional, and the back end person would make sure that the database it's reading is non-relational and does all the things it does. Guys, that was a 6-month process if I was lucky.
oh, yeah. Mm,
Right? And I normally didn't see a draft of it for months, and it was like, no, you guys missed the boat on this. This is not what I was thinking. Versus now we flipped it, where I'm like, hey, here's the template of what I want, right? Like, and by the way, this is like 80% functional now. Go make sure that like one of the things I envision enterprises, and again, I reserve the right to be wrong, and this is what I do for a living. I get to be recorded and be right or wrong all the time. But like if we fast forward this movie 3, 5 years from now, I think enterprises like ours become a really sophisticated data lake repository.
mm,
And then Lisa and Bjorn will be citizen developers who build their own workflows. And you just need to plug into my endpoints, right? Where you guys can be able to in real time say, hey, who's the best agent in Perth? I want to send a referral that way, right? And in real time, I can give you dynamic information that's accurate. Um, um, all that stuff will make the world different. And just like the people who really adopted um, uh, social, right? Like there's some people who are all in on social and digital workflows and SEO outperforms the ones that didn't.
Yeah.
Um, it is what it will be another separation, but my guess is at scale, companies will be doing this too, right? So we're all going to be working through these concepts and ideas.
So, what's to stop AI in the future, say, collating buyers? They've got a list of buyers, a list of sellers, and the buyers put in what they want, the sellers, put in what they want, what their house is, and AI just matching it up, and we're out of the equation. What do you think
Yeah.
would be the thing that stops us or keeps us in real estate?
Yeah. So I think I just probably scared the crap out of everybody in Australia with what I said. And the flip side of that is so this is like, and again, this is just a thesis, right? I get to be right or wrong, but this is what I firmly believe right now is, and based on the past.
Yeah.
You ready for the sentence? Is a good one.
Hmm.
Marketers ruin everything.
Sorry, markers.
Marketer, marketers
Oh, mark.
ruin
Oh,
everything,
mm,
Yeah.
right? Your goal as a marketer is to find a disproportionate return on effort or investment,
mm,
right? Like, can I send out one email that gets a 60% open rate? Can I create one piece of content that gets a crazy amount of engagement? And normally what happens is like you find that that's called a dislocation, right? Where do you guys remember 1990s? How cool email was and how excited you were? Do you
Love the
remember how
1990s.
excited you were in 2010 when you got a text message or got a voicemail or got a phone call, right? Like, do we even talk on these anymore? Right? Like,
Yeah.
send me a text. Don't be a weirdo. Why are you trying to talk to me? Right? Honestly, if we talk, I want this.
mm.
Yeah.
This is way more interesting to me than the phone. Right?
I
Like,
was, I was most
if
excited about the video call. That was like, oh
oh
my
yeah,
gosh, I
no,
can
like
watch
if I'm
everything.
talking to an agent or a broker or someone who's thinking about, or I'm talking to one of our agents, I'd much rather do this, right? Unless, it's quick and I'm walking, then I either want to be walking and talking, right? Um, But I believe that we're about to live through the commoditization of digital interactions. So I'll say it again. I think we're about to live through every digital interaction is about to be commoditized.
Mm.
So, and sample size of one in each one of you. Have you noticed that some of your friends who are not very well written are now, William Shakespeare on Facebook and LinkedIn?
Of course, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and and this is the fun part, guys. Can you tell who's doing it?
Sometimes when they've got the emojis, yes. And the
Yeah.
The
paragraph.
emojis are a dead giveaway. The
Yeah.
other dead giveaway is like paragraphs on
Yes.
paragraphs, right?
Yes.
Like less is more and it's harder,
Mm.
right? And so literally yesterday I told ChatGPT, give me 3 sentences on this subject, and it gave me 7 sentences. Right? It's
Mm.
like, oh, like less is more.
Mm.
So what I think's about to happen is everyone's going to become a digital creator,
Mm.
right? Think about like an interesting agentic workflow with, ChatGPT married with like an 11 Labs and a Hootsuite, and you just generate videos every single day and you post them every single day, and like it's basically free, right?
Mm.
So guess what? Everyone can do that now. Everyone can deliver pretty solid email content marketing.
Mm.
Everyone can deliver that. So this is the good news, because that still sounds like bad news, is that I believe human experience is about to be at a premium.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
think public speakers who can get on a stage with a microphone to 500 people, not rehearsed, and do like objection handling and scripting and dialogue and like stump the professor, that's going to be magical, right? I
Oh,
think that people,
no, sorry. Sorry. Keep going.
yeah, I think the agent who can sit down with the seller and deliver an awesome in-person experience, from like how the appointment's set to the information you deliver to them, right? Because again, now you have superpowers.
Mm.
Now, when you show up to an appointment, you can know just about everything about that consumer that's available on the internet, right? In an organized, contextual way. So you can actually speak to them like, hey, before you go on any appointment, I would grab that person's LinkedIn bio and say, hey, ChatGPT, it's Lisa. I have an appointment with Derek. Here's his LinkedIn bio. What are some relevant talking points that I should be aware of? right? And before we know it, that's going to live here, right? And that's like where we're going is to like a Jarvis that is your co-pilot in life, and you have like these superpowers. But I truly believe that folks are going to be super excited about amazing in-person interactions. And when it comes to buying and selling real estate, I don't care what country we're in, it's infrequent, like 8 to 10 years. It's the most expensive thing we do on average as human beings on this planet. And it's highly, highly emotional, right? And I don't care what language we're speaking, what country we're in, none of those three things change, right? It's expensive everywhere relative to income and market. And everyone says the same thing. This is the most expensive real estate's ever been because inflationary economics and capitalism. It's always infrequent, right? There's not a single country that people sell and buy houses every 2 years. It just doesn't happen, right? Because the triggers that create real estate are human condition. We fall in love, we make little people. Those little people get big, they leave. We need less space, death, divorce, and a couple promotions along the way dictate 80-90% of all the transactions on the planet from a real estate standpoint. And my belief system is, I think, we've been making this trend towards like being hermits and just interacting with technology. But I think that's going to create this super interesting attachment to in-person stuff, right? And I think we saw that post-pandemic where people were just craving human interaction. You just asked if you could join us in person at an event, right? It's like why we travel halfway across the world. It's why I'm getting on a plane in 2 weeks and going to Barcelona to spend time with 450 agents from multiple countries. Because even though you guys can get me like this, it's different when I show up in person for you guys, right? And so I don't think a true professional is going anywhere. But I'm wholeheartedly and 100% believe that the professional who takes all these tools and makes themselves faster, stronger, better are going to disproportionately eat the lunch of the folks that don't. No different than like, can you imagine if an agent's like, yeah, I don't use mobile phones. Like I have a desk line.
Yeah, I agree
What?
completely. I think technology has got a place to play in real estate, but ultimately real estate's about people. And ultimately, yes, I'm a property marketer, but it's not the marketing of the property that determines the eventual sale price of the property. It's my negotiation skills and my interactions with that person on a human level as to whether they like me and trust me for then me to be able to use my negotiation skills to be able to pull out the best result for my particular vendor. And I don't think that us as agents are going anywhere, but there'll be two types of agents in the future. There'll be agents that adopt and develop technology and they'll thrive, and there'll be agents that just remain in their set ways and they'll eventually die. I mean, one thing that I've learned, the biggest lesson when I came over to eXp, Leo, was, Chris, myself and Mike Lowry started Team eXp SA here in South Australia, which is now 51 agents strong here in SA. We started it in the middle of the pandemic, right, and everyone thought we were crazy for leaving our traditional office and joining along with eXp. But what we learned from the pandemic was that everybody's moving online, and that technology has got a forefront place to play in the roles of agents' lives. So the biggest lesson that I learned was that yes, it's about people, but people's habits change, and the pandemic was actually a really positive thing for real estate in a digital space, because people were used to doing more digital online transactions. So when we came along as a cloud-based company, it made a lot of sense to people. So the biggest lesson that I learned was it's always about people, but the technology that you have that you can adapt in your toolbox will differentiate you between a top performing agent and a low performing agent. So some of the biggest lessons I learned was there's technologies available when I switched over to eXp that I didn't realize were available, because eXp is on the forefront of technology. We are a tech company and we are traded on the NASDAQ because eXPI is a tech stock as well. We ultimately real estate company worldwide. But some of the biggest lessons I learned is that you've got to adapt and change. So I've become very strong on socials with my Google, my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube. And I'm getting to the point now where I go to my kids' school and they think I'm a rock star or some sort of movie star because all the kids are watching YouTube nowadays. And they look at me and I'm thinking, is there something hanging off my face? But it's just because they see me because I come up in the ads in what their kids are watching. And so the parents then say to me, hey, Bjorn, we see you all over the place. You seem to know what you're doing. Come and sell our house. So it's become an attraction-based business now, thanks to, the advances that have happened. So what would you say from your viewpoint and becoming the CEO of eXp, what would you think would be some of the biggest lessons that you've learned entering into this role?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. So first of all, I think people overcomplicate things. Um, what got me to become a top producing agent in the US and then founder of a software company and other things I've done in my life. So sorry about that. Hasn't really changed in my controllable activity, right? So, um, I have phone calls I need to make, and I have contacts I need to make, and then I have deals I have to close. And I actually made a post about that not that long ago on social, and I said, guys, by the way, what I do every day is exactly what you do. It's just normally has a couple more zeros involved, right? So, um, just like selling houses is a people business, I believe all businesses are people businesses, right? Like whether it's a product or service, you have a top of the funnel, you have an appointment to a conversion, right? And it's either a product or a service, and it's either reoccurring or it's transactional. I feel that I could run any business on the planet if I just understood that workflow, right? Who is your customer? What's the total addressable market? What is a lead cost? How do we convert it to an appointment? And or an opportunity, right? Because if it's software or services, you might not have the appointment. And then how do we close a transaction? Is that a single off transaction or is that a reoccurring transaction, whether it's a subscription or a relationship, right? Like we are in the service relationship business. And I feel that I interview to work to have you guys be with us every month and making sure that the service is there, that the response time is there, that we're continuing to not assume that the past dictates the future. And is there new tools that we need to give you? Is there a new workflow to touch? Um, so there's again, because I am one of you. I sold homes at scale for 16 years of my life. The behavior that got me to become a top agent is actually the exact same behavior I use today, right? The one thing that is different that has changed is I am officially out of time. That's never happened to me before in my life, which is an interesting concept. And it's funny because Glenn kind of warned me about it. Give me 1 second. My little guy goes to jujitsu in a little bit, and I'm just telling him we're wrapping up this call, and then I will be there for him. Give me 1 second. If you guys haven't heard
Right,
me
time,
rant,
time
my
is the one
family.
thing, it's the one commodity that we don't have any more of. It doesn't matter how much wealth we
So
have, we
so
can't get
so
any more time.
I actually love that that happened because it's like driving my point home. So every single day there's an emergency, there's something urgent, there's something that takes my time. And by the way, it translates to you guys as well in real estate, right? So the first thing I would say is like, okay, what season of life are you in and what's your priorities? And by the way, it's completely okay. They change over time, right? Like when I was a 22-year-old, 23-year-old rock star agent, I worked 12 hours a day and I did it 7 days a week and I did it for like 10 years. My wife was in the business, Ariana. She ran the team, and so we were both in the office together. So it was actually super healthy for our relationship. But if I was married with small kids, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week is not a way to be happy in life, right? And I will tell you that I used to like get pneumonia 3 times a year because I probably pushed myself too much and didn't eat right and get enough sleep because I was in my 20s and I thought I was invincible. Now, if I don't get, 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep, I can't show up with like this level of focus. Like I'm hyper present with you guys. The only phone that it can interrupt me is my family. It's a 3 or 4 phone numbers I can push through while I'm doing stuff. But guess what? Like today, I went to my son's second grade graduation and my daughter's fourth grade graduation.
Oh,
And I had actually some stuff that was double booked, and the school gave us, but like I'm like that's my priority.
mm,
Like if you guys have heard me ever speak, like you guys are a distant second in my heart to my family,
mm,
and that's why I can be such a fierce leader for you guys because I have my priorities straight, in the sense that like making sure I love my wife and children, I go to the gym, I eat cleanly, I'm hydrated and I get enough sleep is what allows me to have my battery charged in order to perform at the level I perform at.
mm.
And so, the higher up in the performance scale I've personally experienced, I think people like forget that like it's always an emergency. And by the way, when I have emergencies now, it's like I don't know, multi-billion-dollar litigation with a class action lawsuit, and the DOJ wants to talk about stuff, and we're launching a new country, and we have a problem with the minister of real estate, right? Like, there's always something.
Yeah.
And if you don't protect your energy, and I'm not talking about like crystals and essential oils like what my mom talks about. It's your personal battery of what gets you excited and gets you like if we don't do that, we burn out as human beings, right? So it's been a super interesting experience in prioritization where look, I could work 24 hours a day because there's 24 like look, you guys are 6:35 a.m. in Australia and it's 4:35. Like I could be on the phone until 10 o'clock at night with any country because we are in so many places. Like the sun does not set on eXp right now. And so we need to create frameworks that we can live within, right? Like I have a yes policy. If anyone reaches out and it's a reasonable ask, I'm going to say yes digitally, right? In person, I say no a lot, right? Like I made a deal with Glenn when he gave me the opportunity where I was like, I don't want to travel. Q1 of 2025, I was gone for my kids 3.3 nights per month. That actually surprises most people because most CEOs of companies my size are gone 3 weeks a month.
Yeah.
And I've created a world and a workflow where I don't do that. And by the way, I think I have a higher output than my peer group, right? Because they're working under a framework of like, oh, I have to physically be there. I'm like, well, then I'm not interested in the opportunity.
Mm.
But I feel I'm more present and show up for more of you digitally, intentionally.
Yeah.
Because by the way, if I was on a plane for 12 hours, like, you know how many calls I could have made? You know how many one-on-one connections that then turn into one-to-many? Whether you get 50 or 5,000 views, like I think sometimes we don't appreciate the scale of social, right? Like, let's say you put a post and it gets 50 likes. Do you know what 50 people in a room look like?
Mm.
Like, and by the way, when it's hyper niche down like what we do, those 50 people are typically, in my world, agents, right? In your world, buyers and sellers. And if I got 62 likes from buyers and sellers and I was selling houses, I don't know that there's something I could get more excited about, right? When
Yeah.
when I make a post on Facebook and I get 70 likes and they're mostly agents and 50 of them are ours and 20 are not, those are the ones I get excited about too. I'm like, hey, that's part of my funnel to make sure that we're focused on growth. So I think the takeaway for everybody is like, there's never enough time. Time is the
Yeah.
most valuable commodity on the planet. And I think about it a couple of ways. One is when I'm present with you, I want you to walk away with value on every interaction we've had, right? Whether it's digital or in person, Bjorn, right? Like I'm very focused on making sure when you walk away, there was a transfer of value. And my goal in life is to give you more value than you pay me for it. Right. I want every interaction, whether I'm the CEO of this company or I was a listing agent or a buyer's agent, I want you to feel like, man, I got too good of a deal, right? Because then you become an advocate. And once you become an advocate, you tell other people about the goodness of the transaction and the asymmetrical experience where it's like, oh man, he gave me so much more than I gave him, and uh, I need to stay engaged. I need to reciprocate, right? Because we're also reciprocating machines, and people don't appreciate that as much, right? Like
Yeah.
I used to say to agents, because I did zero marketing, and I would sit down with people and I would say, hey, by the way, while I'm representing you, you will notice I am not on my phone. I'm not checking my like while we're looking at properties or at your listing appointment. My business model to use, I want to deliver an incredible amount of value. And what I ask actively, and I will ask you many times throughout the transaction, if you come across anyone who's interested in buying and selling real estate who would like to experience this level of service, is it okay for me to ask you for their names and numbers, right? Because a lot of it's like words matter, language matters. I think too many people say, hey, if you can think of somebody, like give them my number. I don't want you to give them my number. I want you to say, Lisa, John Smith is ready to buy, and his number is 703-975 XYZ, right? Because I want to have the control of the ask. And everything I do is very intentional, if you can't tell.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I've learned with this company is, we've met in person. We've had dinner in Las Vegas together. I was in the room with yourself and Glenn Sanford and Michael Valdez at the time and a couple of other people. And I thought to myself, hold on, I'm one of, and I think at the time we had 88,000 agents. And I thought to myself, I'm just little old Bjorn. I'm just one of 88,000 people around the world. And here I am. And you guys are giving me your time. I was invited to Vegas, spoke on stage in front of all the agents. And then, if we need a direct line to you guys, we can reach out in workplace or whatnot, and we get a response from yourself. Even if I send something to Glenn Sam, I don't bother him with anything that's not important. But if I send a message out, I get a response. And for a company that's so large, to take so much care in each of us as individuals, I think is a huge benefit, because that's not something that I was expecting coming into a large company. I thought, okay, I'm going to be here doing my own thing. They're going to be providing the services in the background, but I'm never going to talk to them. I'm never going to have any lines of communication to any of the leaders. It's just going to be, they're there providing a service. I'm there providing, my services to them. But the interaction between us has been next level from a communication standpoint. And like you said, it's a service-based industry, and eXp basically are servicing me as an operational agent to fill my toolbox with all of the AI and all of the tech that I need in order to become the best agent that I possibly can for my clients. And I love the thing that you said just there about being present. Like, I've always had a thing myself that no matter where I am, who I'm with, whether I'm speaking and there's 6,000 people in a room, or whether there's only 5 people, or whether only 2 people rock up, I'll give the same level of attention regardless of numbers, because it's about having that sense of awareness with any interaction that I have, whether it's with a client, whether it's with my family, whether it's with my kids, my wife, whatever, just being present in the moment. And I think a lot of people lose track of the basics of being present in the moment. Now, we know you've got a very busy family life. So, Lisa, is there anything else that you wanted to ask of Leo?
Well, you made me think of one more thing to share, just if you will indulge me. One is, it's almost two parts. One is, yes, we are actually super intentional as a company to be super available. Like, that's a philosophy Glenn had from the beginning. And again, he was a mega team leader, and then I run the company and I'm a mega team leader. So in our mind, we're both just two high performing realtors who happen to run a big company. So I think that level of response and availability is what we did as good agents, right? Like, the reason I sold 500 to 600 homes a year for almost a decade was because I was super available and responsive to my clients. Like, the amount of times I sat on a top producer panel, like, what's the secret? I'm like, are you ready? Call people back and call them back quickly and be responsive. Like, call people back faster than everybody else is like such an unlock, right? So I've figured out how to scale that. So you guys know we have a 24-hour, 7-day a week support line. Last month, we responded to over 30,000 phone calls globally, with a 30-second hold time average and a 90% resolution score. Like, we obsess with this stuff because that's what works with human beings, right? Like, I think way too many people don't give themselves enough credit as an expert consumer, right? So many times an agent's like, do you think it'll work? I'm like, okay, would it work on you? Right? Like, I hate when I call somewhere and I get transferred 5 times before somebody answers my question, right? Like, that's a really uncomfortable conversation. So how do you wow consumers is how I want to wow you guys, right? And then the second part that I will tell you that applies throughout my entire career in life is that most people don't reach out, don't make themselves uncomfortable, right? Like, Bjorn, you've proactively reached out and you asked me to join this call, right? Do you know how many agents don't? Right. And by the way, I say this all the time. All you have to do is invite me. I have a yes policy, right? Like, the team will say, they'll never say no. They'll say his next available is. And sometimes, and by the way, like, I'm wheels up on June 14th and I'm pretty much on the entire summer, right? Because as soon as my kids get out of school, I travel around the world and North America with my whole family so I can see it. Like, last summer, I did 12 cities, 5 countries, 94 days, and I probably saw 7 to 10,000 agents, right? This year won't be that intense, but it's pretty intense, right? So I'm going to go to the UK, followed by Portugal, followed by Spain, followed by France. Then I'm going to come back. Then I go to Colorado. Then I go to California. Then I actually take 2 weeks off and go surfing with the kids in Costa Rica. But, like, I'm going to see a lot of our humans. But, like, there is an appointment that we were going back and forth with another executive, and it's like, yeah, the next he's available is August 26th. The answer was no. And by the way, see that, like, if somebody asked for me in person, sure, in 4 months and you have to fly across the world. Digitally, we could probably squeeze you next week, right?
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting balance of like the in-person is super valuable and do it when necessary, but there's also like these amazing digital tools where we can like be in real time. You're seeing my energy, my expressions, my hand movement, like my son interrupting and me pausing to text them back, right? It's authentic and real. So I can't encourage people enough to reach out to people that they probably normally wouldn't, right? Like the amount of times, funny enough, I just said there's a CEO that I'm going to meet on August 26th. That CEO is the CEO of a very large publicly traded company, much bigger than ours. I met him 18 years ago. I spoke on stage. I was in my 20s. He looks to me, he goes, "Hey, you're a super impressive young man. If you're ever in Detroit, hit me up. I would love to meet with you." A politeness that a lot of successful people say. I stalked him that day. I found his assistant's email address and I said, "I happen to be in Detroit next week. Is there any way we can have lunch?" Mind you, I wasn't going to Detroit and I didn't have any business in Detroit. He responded and he goes, laugh out loud, and he said, "Sure, if you can make Wednesday work at 11, we can grab lunch." And I booked a ticket. It cost me like $1,400, but never had a CEO of a big company said, "Come visit me." And so I took him up on it. We got along super great during lunch. He actually cleared out his afternoon and he actually kept bringing all these people in to share their ideas. And someone was like, "I love that one. I hate that one. That one's stupid." And I was just authentically myself. And I gave him my feedback as an expert, as an agent, right? Because again, sometimes we don't appreciate our expert opinions and advice. He ran a very large mortgage company, but he was tickled to death that an agent had a perspective. And 18 years later, now I'm the CEO of a public company and we're still collabing and doing stuff. But how many people have said that to you? And I'm talking to you, anybody listening, and you didn't follow up, right? Like,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many agents don't message me, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying to you right now is the same thing I told you in Vegas. I'm like, just message me. Like, if you have a problem or a question, again, self-awareness, don't waste my time. Don't ask me something that, like, I've literally had agents say, "I can't log into the CRM." I'm like, "Well, I'm never responding to you," right? Like, have self-awareness, be respectful of the time. But like, I've also had people say, "Hey, this CRM broke and I'm having a problem." I escalated it to their CEO and they told me to bug off. Okay, then message me because I have an enterprise relationship with a vendor and I want to get involved at that point. But I would encourage you to be as bold and audacious more than you've ever been, because you'd be surprised how willing, responsive people are. At the end of the day, like, we're all just humans. And some of us are sitting in seats that impress you from a title standpoint, but at the end of the day, it's like we're just people.
Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I asked if I could speak on stage. I said, "If I'm coming to Vegas, can I talk?" And eXp, like, "Okay, you've got some content to share with people." And I've got 3 speaking gigs, speaking in front of thousands of agents. But ask and you shall receive. If you don't ask, the answer's always going to be no, because you're not asking the question. So we appreciate your time. Lisa, what would you like to close with?
Just anybody that's interested in finding out more about eXp, you can, sort of gauge from Leo's response on AI. I've just had some like kind of mind blown thoughts about that. That's what the company is like. That's what we're like. We like talking about technology. We like talking about how we're going to grow, and we'd like to help other agents do that as well. So whether you're a top performer, that's kind of what we're built for as well. The top performers, we've got eXp Luxury, we've got so many different things, all the countries we're in, 82,000 agents. Please contact either Bjorn or myself, and we would love to talk to you about eXp and the advantages and the model. And it's just the best, absolute best real estate model in the world. So thank you so much, Leo, for joining us. And I want to go into so much more about the AI and what I believe that we can do to make agents more comfortable with AI coming forward too. So that's really, like I said, blown my mind today. So thank you so much for joining
eXp's changed my life 100% for the better. I never thought I'd be in a situation where I am. I've bought my dream house and all these other sorts of things. Leo, just quickly before you go, there's a lot of agents in Australia that have a lot of fear. Okay, a lot of fear. They think that we're another here today, gone tomorrow company, that we're a startup, that we might be running our nose into the ground with debt. Can you just give some clarification on our eXp?
Sure. Yeah. So We're a 15-year-old company that's publicly traded on the US NASDAQ exchange, $4.3 billion in revenue in 2024. We're the single largest real estate company on the planet. And if you look at the US markets from the publicly traded peer group, we're the most profitable and most sustainable company on the planet.
Well, there you have it, guys. You've heard it from our CEO. We are going nowhere. We are here to stay. We're here to change agents' lives and help you transact with your clients better, to give them a better personal experience. And we're always at the forefront of technology. And if you want to be part of a company that enables you to be able to be thought of as an individual, not just as a number, eXp is definitely the place to come. Thank you very much for your time, Leo, and have a fantastic time with your family this evening.
Thanks,
Take care. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Let's Talk About Real Estate podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have a question about real estate, then please join the group on Facebook, also called Let's Talk About Real Estate. For those of you who are interested in eXp, please join us at 10 a.m. Brisbane time every Wednesday morning for eXp Explained. Thank you again for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and see you next week.